Good morning, Baiba.
Good morning. Hi. Nice to see you.
Just 1 second.
So,
I'm not. Are you listening to me?
yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, totally.
Okay, well, yeah, I will put some more formal backgrounds, I think. Yeah. Oh, okay, I need to mirror those video. Yeah, it will be more appropriate for
Very nice.
seminar. Yeah. Well, yeah, it's very nice opportunity to participate in seminar in Barcelona, not going out of home. However, I would be happy to be in Barcelona, but for next time.
Well, actually here it's not, it's cloudy, and for us it's not so good weather, but we are very, very exigent about the weather.
Yeah, it's November. It's here also quite gloomy. Yeah, I would like to try to share my screen. Sure. Okay.
Sure. Mm-hmm. You can share right now.
Oh, yeah, no. Mm-hmm. Oh, because at work, at university, we are using MS Teams.
Okay, perfect. It's working.
Yeah, it's working. Nice. Yeah.
Okay, I will.
Very good. Oh. So.
Yeah, we can. I think we can wait some minutes.
Yes, yes, it's still some 10 minutes. So yeah, we can be back.
Sure. Sure. I will be here because
Yeah.
if I left the the room, the application closed.
Disconnect. I just will go through the presentation once more.
Okay. And thank you for accept the invitation, and then the the change of the hour.
No, I just planned to finish my presentation this morning.
I'm sorry.
No, because it was afternoon, and so, but I managed to do it because, yeah. Anyway, in the process of how to say, academic analysis is still ongoing, and just this applied research part is completely finished.
Okay.
So I didn't manage to. I will not be able to give some more complicated scientific conclusions out of it. But
no, but that's okay. I think that this is a good opportunity.
Yeah.
More than results, but like to discuss work in progress.
Yes, it is more work in progress at present moment. Also, I had some health issues which slowed me down, and yeah, but work is very interesting. I'm very happy to share it, and because in many respects it's quite unique. And I was very surprised that in literature on political transnationalism, there was no articles on diaspora diplomacy, not a single one.
Mm-hmm.
These are like two bubbles of literature.
Mm-hmm. Because there is a lot of literature about social movements, no? The transnationalization of social movements.
Yeah, and also voting and participation at the homeland internal affairs predominantly. And I think it will be good scene to ask question why. And also there is a lot of South-North transnationalism, South-South, but not North-North.
Yeah, this is interesting.
These geographical coverages are quite, and it was quite interesting findings for me preparing for this seminar.
Yeah, totally. Actually, Baiba, one of the organizations of this seminar is the work group on South-South migration.
Yes, I noticed.
And this is very interesting what you are saying, because right now we are discussing the concept of South, and I think that your position as academic, but also geographic position, it's very insightful about how we can rethink about the South. Maybe it's not a good category.
Not.
In Europe, we have a lot of East-Est more than South-North, no? So yeah, maybe we can have some time to discuss the concept of South. I think it's
because you never talk about East South and West South, yeah.
no.
Like it is in this European context, which is global north, but always there is this East-West division somehow.
Totally. And I think that countries as Spain and Latvia are in a gray zone between South and North. They are not totally North, but they are not South. So it's like
liminality or marginality. This center periphery duality probably even helps better.
It's the south of North.
Yeah, and the east of North. Yeah,
yeah, totally.
Yeah, so this geographical imagination is a little bit fun.
Totally.
Oh, yeah. So let's see. I hope that there will be some participants.
Yeah, totally. And if you agree, this we are recording, not only streaming. So after the seminar, we will do some edit. No, we will make some addition to the video and then put in our YouTube. So this register will be to the future if you agree. So maybe if we don't have a lot of people right now, probably in the next days and months, we will have some viewers.
Yeah, we will see it. Yes, we will see it. And how went the first seminar a week ago?
Yeah, the first one was a week ago with a professor from Argentina. And it was a professor, Claudia Pedoni, and she actually worked for a long time here in Barcelona. She did her PhD here. So there were like deep connections with the university. So it was very interesting to have her here again, because she was one of the academics that after the crisis in Spain returned to the country of origin. So it's also interesting because it's also it's not only an academic that study transnationalism, but also someone who experienced it
herself.
Yeah,
Nationalism. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Right. Just one more language for me to learn, like Spanish, to be able to follow. Yeah, but this is just one life we have with its limitations. Okay. Some few more minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, I will take some water too. Yes, and I will try to manage time myself, but I will be very thankful if you will say, okay, you have some 10 or 5 minutes left. Because you know how it is when you start speaking about topic you really like. Sometimes you lose track of time.
Totally. Yeah, I did a similar seminar with our center after my PhD, and there is the video in our channel, and I think I talked like for 1.5 hours. It was during the pandemic, so it was not only my excitement about my work, but also, you know, some desire to be connected and share something with someone beside my dog.
Oh, yes, especially PhD is quite lonely adventure.
Yeah, totally.
Because in usually in research you at least have a teamwork and someone who is interested in our results, and
Yeah,
it always are more engagement with other people around you.
totally. Yeah, this is something that is interesting to think about. And the way how we produce PhD work is very different from the way that we actually work afterwards.
Yes.
And we have to rethink, maybe, I don't know if the PhD prepare ourselves to what come next.
Yeah, probably not so well. Yeah.
The dynamics of the work, it's very different. In a positive way, I think. For me, it's very nice to have some division of labor, of the academic labor, to do a part of the job, the part that I think I'm better on. And I think also the quality of the results, the way how we produce. Yeah. So maybe let's see. Yeah, maybe we can, in 2 minutes, we can begin.
Yes.
Okay, so Baiba, if it's okay to you, we can begin. Okay.
Absolutely.
Just 1 second, I will respond. There is a question in YouTube. So yeah, perfect. Okay, so I will begin in Spanish, if it's not a problem, and then I will switch to English. So, buenos días a todos y a todas. Good morning, everyone. Yo soy Tales Esperoni, soy investigador del CER-MIGRACIONS y también coordinador del grupo de trabajo de Migración Sur-Sur de Claxo. El seminario que tendremos hoy forma parte del ciclo Nuevos retos de las movilidades transnacionales. En la primera sesión discutimos los desafíos de la transnacionalización de las dinámicas familiares y contamos con la presencia de la profesora Claudia Pedoni de la Universidad de Buenos Aires. Hoy discutiremos la transnacionalización de la acción política con la profesora Bela. Y el 15 de noviembre contaremos con la presencia de Alisa Petrov de la Universidad Abierta de Cataluña, con quien debatiremos sobre los desafíos de la transnacionalización del trabajo. Este ciclo está organizado por el CER-MIGRACIONS y el GEDIME, ambos centros de la Universidad Autónoma de Barcelona, y el Grupo de Trabajo de Migraciones Sur-Sur de Claxo. Estamos muy agradecidos por la colaboración de estas entidades, así como de la Facultad de Ciencias Políticas y Sociología y del Departamento de Sociología de la Autónoma. También me gustaría agradecer a la ESA, en particular a la red de investigación número 3, que trata sobre las perspectivas biográficas de las sociedades europeas. Fue en el marco de esa red de investigación que pude tener contacto por primera vez con el trabajo de Bela. So Baiba, I was just saying thank you to ESA network on biographical studies, since it was the first opportunity that I have contact with your work and with your person. So since our seminar will be in English today, I will switch the language now. So today we are pleased to welcome Professor Baiba Bela. Baiba Bela is Associate Professor in Sociology and Social Anthropology in the University of Latvia. She has been doing research at the Advanced Social and Political Research Institute and teaching at Faculty of Social Science at the University of Latvia. Previously, she has been working at the Latvia National Oral History Project, linked to the Institute of Philosophy and Sociology of the University of Latvia, where she has been engaged in research of individual and collective identities of exiled Latvians in Sweden, and she was the editor and co-author of the book, We Didn't Go to Sweden to Become Swedes. Research interests of Baiba Bela, are connected with oral history, narrative analysis, memory and identity, also sustainable development and migration. Baiba Bela is the author of more than 65 articles in journals and collected articles. So we will begin with the presentation of Baiba Bela today about the political transnationalism, the challenges surrounded the political transnationalism, and then we will open to the questions to other people who are connected. Thank you so much, Baiba, for accepting this invitation, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Talis, and I'm very excited to give that speech and introduce you with some preliminary results of our research. And this work on political transnationalism, but it started as work on diaspora diplomacy as part of public diplomacy. And I was very surprised that my previous experience with diaspora research was, as you pointed out, was mostly on identity and with so-called old diaspora, or those who emigrated after Second World War from Latvia to Western Europe or Americas or other parts of the world. However, last 5 years, I've been actively participating in the research also of contemporary diasporas, which is much more diverse. Anyway, this topic is quite new to me. And what is interesting, it is quite unique also in the research field. Because when preparing for this seminar, I checked also Web of Science and read a couple of articles on political dimension of transnationalism. And what is interesting is that in early 2000s, it was already said that political transnationalism covers a wide range of phenomena, but literature review shows that the focus of research is quite specific. It's predominantly on how diasporas participate in the political affairs of sending countries, for example, through external voting, political remittances, and political outcomes of these circulating ideas, practices, and know-how. So more or less, these are political activities and networks that involve diasporas in politics oriented towards their country of origin. And this is not exactly diaspora diplomacy is about. And also political transnationalism itself is not the widely researched, I would like to mention. In early October, in Web of Science, I found just 64 articles, and just 24 of them were in sociology. And like that literature review done in publication 5 years ago, the main focus is the same on immigrant participation in elections at home and various forms of activism, but basically how diaspora engaged in the internal policies of the country of origin. So again, focus is on the transnationalism between diasporas and with direction towards home country. Also, geographical focus was a surprise for me. Of course, it's not surprising that a lot of literature is on the Mexico-US migration and transnationalism in Mexico-US migration. Also, there appear such countries of like Colombia, El Salvador, Philippines, Morocco, but the main focus is on transnational links between developing country of origin, also a lot of African countries, and the migrant community in one of the Western European countries or the US. No, also Canada or some other, but this is the dominant approach. And so I thought, okay, where fits my research in here? Because Latvia is kind of part of the European Union, one of member states since 2004. We are never considered to be Western Europe, at the best Eastern Europe. We would like to imagine ourselves as Nordic country, or at least Baltic country. And are not very interested to be associated with East European countries because of many reasons. But probably the main issue here is this center-periphery dimension. And in this respect, we can say that it could be important also to develop more nuanced discussion on this center-periphery relation in the global north, or even in European Union, if we are looking in smaller categories. So I found that there was none of those articles on diaspora diplomacy within articles on keyword political transnationalism, and articles on diaspora diplomacy was 19, none of them in sociology, mostly in political science and international relations. And discussion on political transnationalism is completely not overlapping with discussion on diaspora diplomacy. So this is also a question which I asked myself: is it really necessary to add this one dimension of political transnationalism to this discussion? Because what is surprising for me, diaspora diplomacy is not possible without political transnationalism. Because diaspora diplomacy is possible only through the more intense diaspora engagement and transnational ties between diaspora and country of origin. Yeah, I mentioned this geographical focus, which I found quite limiting for broader analysis of political dimension of transnationalism. Sure, in the world there is a lot more diversity of these geographical places which could be addressed in the research. And also there can be more elaborated discussion on this polylateral and multidirectional aspects of political transnationalism, not just in this political, geographical multidirectionalism, but also on other aspects. Like in diaspora diplomacy literature, they are using this assemblage theory and speaks about quadratic nexus of relationship in diaspora diplomacy. So this is configuration involving home country, host country, respective diasporas, and international actors as well. And it's not just home, host country, or diaspora, or home country relations. Because there's also a lot of networking in diaspora itself, which is not less important, at least for this political transnationalism and diaspora diplomacy. So I hope to add something to this through my research. And so today in this research, I attempt to develop some sociological discussion on diaspora diplomacy as one dimension of political transnationalism. And I will be focusing on this emerging phenomena, how diaspora professionals from Latvia who are working in international organizations are experiencing cooperation with institutions in Latvia, and generally focusing on their predisposition of being involved in diaspora diplomacy or this transnational cooperation more precisely. Yeah, so I hope that this study allows to explore and contribute to the understanding of the structures and methods of engaging diaspora in diaspora diplomacy, and yeah, as I said, individual predisposition to this engagement. And today I will focus more or less on the latter because it is because of time limitations. So I will start with research background, few words on conceptual background, and the Latvian migration context, then on methodology and data, and diaspora's professionals' cooperation experience, their predisposition to engagement, and also pay some attention, if time will be left, to barriers hindering cooperation. And this was mixed methods research. Absolutely fresh data is from this summer. We have completely completed this applied research report, but still will continue analysis, more scientific analysis of data, because it's quite unique data. And here is a good synergy between two research projects. One is short-term, applied research funded by Ministry of Foreign Affairs, with very specific focus, involvement of Latvian professionals in diaspora diplomacy, because this is what Latvian Ministry of Foreign Affairs want to develop more in a systematic way. And they wanted to understand the situation. And the other research is fundamental national research programs project, cutting edge knowledge and solutions to study demographic and migration processes for the development of Latvian and European society. I'm working, leading the team in one work packages, and our task is to advance knowledge on talented, high-skilled migrants and diaspora networking possibilities. So this diaspora diplomacy is an excellent example of diaspora networking possibilities. And this research allows to continue data analysis and also to write some scientific articles, because our very nice 90-page long report in Latvian doesn't help you much. Yeah, you can't read it mostly. Most of you, I think so. But the data is really quite unique. So we are very happy to continue also on more, to say, not just applied analysis of data, but also more this scientific discussion on the phenomena. So we can allow to develop. Yeah, and with conceptual background for scientific analysis, I would say that we are still on early stage, because we have this choice between focus from diaspora diplomacy perspective, or yeah, probably also it could be political transnationalism perspective. But speaking about diaspora diplomacy, this at present moment is the main conceptual focus. Yeah, the diplomacy and international policy making at present moment are much broader stuff as it used to be, and primarily it is a game of skill, not simply a game of power, in which size, power, and geographical localization are crucial. So if you are a big country, you have more resources and more powerful. In this contemporary diplomacy, diaspora network can play an important role, and also allow policymakers punch above their weight, because it allows to make broader arena to speak about particular countries' affairs, strategic goals, and so on. So diasporas are increasingly seen as influential actors on both domestic and international fronts. And this article of 2017 stresses that diasporas are being sought out and engaged as potential diplomatic actors to fulfill diplomacy's core functions of communication, representation, and negotiation. However, not very many countries does it very in targeted manner. Some of big countries does it, like France and UK, if we speak about those who are in Europe. And we did some research on smaller countries who does it, like Denmark and Ireland from West Europe, and Czech Republic and Poland from more east part of Europe. These are a few countries which for years are working on that direction, however with different means and in different scope, of course. So Latvia also would like to be one of those countries. And what was very surprising for me is that this limited amount of research and really difficulties to find a literature in English. This was quite difficult for us also on one stage of our research. Yeah. So there is this idea of the potential of diaspora networks as this extension of countries' hard or economic power and soft or cultural power, which is in fact known for centuries, but only the last decades. So this is new tendency to have national strategies to harness this potential of diaspora really actively for public diplomacy. And so what term diaspora diplomacy means, it refers to involvement of diaspora networks, talent and goodwill in the pursuit of national interests. Okay, one slide is missing, but I will not go into more detail about this discussions about what is public diplomacy and what is diaspora diplomacy, because I would like to have more time for data and actual research. For those who are more in south and probably not so familiar with our Baltic histories, I would like to remain that Latvia regained its independence in 1991 when USSR disintegrated, and we were independent country since 1918. So after the First World War until the Second World War, which we may say that for us it started in 1940. When Latvia was occupied by Soviets, and ended 1991, when for us really occupation ended. And just 15 years later, we already joined the European Union and are extremely happy about that. Otherwise, we will be like Ukraine is now. But it's not today's topic. Regarding migration, Latvia's population is one among most fastly shrinking in European Union, and it decreased by 17% just in this century, and for 1/3 due to low birth rates, but 2/3 of this decrease is due to high emigration. And here is some data. You started with this emigration from Spain after economic crisis. Latvia was heavily hit by economic crisis of 2008 because here coincided two things: our local overheating of national economy and global economic crisis. For 2009 and 2010, these are 2 years with extremely high immigration rates. As economics went more healthier, the immigration rates also is decreasing. And as you see, immigration rates are increasing, but in fact, half of immigrants are return migrants. So here is indeed quite intense mobility in Latvia. And if you can imagine, Latvia population is less than 2 million. So it means a little bit higher than the population of Barcelona, but considerably less than population of Madrid. So you can understand what is this the scale we are talking about. So diaspora is in numbers small, but it share of mobile people is significantly higher than average. on global scale or in European Union, if we are working just about mobility of those who are at working age. In European Union average, 8.3% are working outside the country or living outside the countries they're born. Of Latvian citizens, there is almost 12% of Latvian citizens are living and working outside of Latvia, of these working age citizens. Some of estimations shows that there is even 500,000 people of Latvian descendant who lives outside Latvia. So it's quite huge share of population lives outside our borders. And therefore this immigration issue is always very hot here because of this large diasporas. And Latvia, like many countries with high immigration rates, seeks to maintain links with diaspora through various policy instruments. 4 years ago, we have even this law on diaspora. And so we seek to convert this brain drain into brain gain, especially facilitating return migration, but with, I would say, different success, or at least to stimulate brain circulation. And this means diaspora engagement. And here comes also this diaspora diplomacy as one sort of diaspora engagement, because also this diaspora diplomacy phenomena can be explored also from this conceptual lens of diaspora engagement. Yep, and because of this need to harness this diaspora potentials, Ministry of Foreign Affairs are each year funding one research, applied research, short-term research, and research of this year was that purpose was to explore, as I mentioned, how to develop targeted and systemic cooperation with diaspora professionals working in international organizations, and we had four research tasks. So at first, identify and analyze foreign experience in the involvement of diaspora professionals behind the pursuit of foreign policy objectives and in the development of network diplomacy. And this is part I leave completely outside because it was documentary research and with 2 interviews with one representative from Czechs and one from Global Danes. And as I mentioned, we did research on 4 countries, which can be more or less comparable to Latvia. Foreign Ministry said that they are not interested in what goes on, more precisely, about Lithuania and Estonia, our closest neighbors. So Ministry has information enough. They know what is going on there. So they will be more interested in countries they don't know much about, but who is developing some things. And one part of research is this documentary analysis or country case studies more precisely. Then the next task was to identify Latvian diaspora professionals working in international governmental and non-governmental organizations. And the task was also to make a database with contacts of professionals who would be interested to participate in systemic cooperation with Latvian state. And this was legally quite demanding task and not so easy to complete. The third task was provide an in-depth understanding of attitudes and views of the target group on these potential opportunities for cooperation and advancement of strategic objectives of Latvia, as well as to explore barriers that have so far hindered closer cooperation, And here we used quantitative and qualitative methods, survey and focus groups and interviews to complete this task. And I will talk today more about precisely these results, some of them at least. Yeah, and fourth task was develop recommendations for diaspora diplomacy, how to develop them. And this 2025 is very particular year because, of course, ministry is very pragmatic. Latvia would like to be candidate for United Nations, the Security Council non-permanent member for 27-29, and so elections are forthcoming that year, I think, and there was ideas that this research could help to understand how to involve diaspora to promote Latvia's recognizability on more global scale. But we are very happy that we said that, okay, it doesn't work like that. We have to think in long term. So from our initial negotiations in January, February, were very pragmatic, and no short-term or medium-term vision of this cooperation was for Ministry of Foreign Affairs. This research helped to think more broadly also for ministry, so to see this cooperation as long-term process. And both literature says that this is long-term process, and our research participants said absolutely the same. You can't expect fast results here. Yeah, and this little bit about the target group, because for researchers it was extremely challenging, and honestly speaking, we were terribly afraid how we get to research participants. Because diaspora is many thousands, but of very various professional and passes, and professionals working in international organizations. It's not a huge group, and our task was to cover all possible options here. These intergovernmental organizations like really international, like United Nations and others, but of course also European Union and Council of Europe, where a lot of Latvians is working. But there is also different sub-institutions and bodies under those organizations and association agencies, missions, and so on, including European Court, for example. There's also various international non-governmental organizations. And we were interested in various, personnel on various professional levels and their career stages, and those who has permanent contracts and who have temporary contracts, and those who are consultants and experts only. And we targeted towards those who are working at present in these organizations and have been worked over the past 10 years and accumulated valuable experience that is relevant for this study. But we were very happy that managed quite successfully. And in April, May, we had 5 pilot study interviews to understand the field, because even working for in migration studies for many years, it was not very helping for me in this particular study. I really felt like back in the shoes of student or PhD student, for example, because diaspora diplomacy is more related to international relations topics, and also professionals working in international organizations are very specific target groups. So there was a lot of need to understand how this cooperation between professionals and state works. And as there was limited literature on this, these interviews were very helpful to prepare for field work. Also, these case studies help to prepare for field work a lot. And then we had this online survey. For 3 weeks it was open, and we were enormously happy to get 150 professionals. In fact, it was 152, but 2 were not eligible because they were working on national institutions. And parallelly went also focus group discussions with 18 participants. Initially, the idea was to recruit participants from those who participated in survey, but because of some legal obstacles, we get the agreement very late. It was not possible, so we switched to parallel design, and initial contacts were from Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So they asked embassies to prepare a list of such persons who are working in international organizations. So we got some 40 surnames from my Foreign Affairs Ministry. And also in the research we involved leader of diaspora organization SLV, which is organization aimed to network diaspora professionals. And they have some 200 persons on their mailing list. And leader of this diaspora organization made some list of 30 persons she thinks more important for our research. So we combined these 2 lists. Couple of surnames overlapped. And so we designed to choose 18 or no, something more than 25 or 30 participants for focus group discussions. And the respondents level was very high. Very few persons doesn't answer at all. And very few said that, oh, sorry, in these dates and time we can't. And with the high top level professionals, we did in-depth individual interview. And one was necessary from Latvians working in United Nations in New York offices, because we figured out that, oh, we have a couple of them working in Europe, but it doesn't help for the very particular question ministry is interested in. Yeah, so it was quite, we were 3 researchers and 2 assistants working with this field work. And, I have some 10 minutes. I was afraid that I will not manage half time, 15 minutes for this conceptual part and 15 minutes for results. But it is more probably at present moment, it's more descriptive approach to results from my part. And I will mix here both these quantitative and qualitative results, because we believe that many of those persons who participated in focus group discussion indeed participated also in survey, but all general points made in focus group discussions completely emerged with points or results of survey. So there is indeed, these data, how to say, confirmed each other's results. So it means that probably no huge surprises, but a focus group discussion results allow to understand in much more detail some of the answers in survey, and also covered some of questions not covered at all by survey. And the general attitude was that, here's a quote from focus group discussion. Yes, I've been looking forward to this conversation for 19 years. All 19 years she's working abroad. That lady was looking for opportunity to be involved in home affairs. And this happens first time, something like that. So general attitude is that people working in international organizations are willing to share their knowledge and experience. And they evaluate or see current cooperation as irregular, ad hoc. If Latvia needs something, it approaches diaspora, but not in systematic and regular basis. And mainly this cooperation depends on people in office in Latvia. It is Latvia's ambassadors, ministry officials, on their initiative, if they are willing and open for this cooperation. And several participants mentioned also positive trends in cooperation patterns observed last 5 years, probably, that here is increasing interest in diaspora knowledge and diaspora professionals. Also, there is diversifying forms of cooperation, starting from networking. For example, a year or 2 years ago, there was a meeting in with Latvian president, who himself is from diaspora, probably therefore he is very open to those, to cooperation of other diaspora professionals. There is regularity in some sectors. For example, in focus group discussions, one of discussion was from judges working in various institutions of European Court. And in that field, there is very well developed cooperation in knowledge exchange between judges in Latvia and those working in European Union. And in the field of translators, we didn't had any as focus group participants, but they were quite regularly referred to as example of good cooperation. But still mainly based on individual initiative rather than systemic and strategic approach. And quantitative data shows the same. I will start with that on right hand. Has the Latvian civil service or diplomatic service shown interest in you and your professional knowledge? It was quite a surprise, or not big surprise, that 71% said no. It's quite a lot. 14 said yes, and 9. This other answers was mainly that it was sporadic, ad hoc, irregular, sometimes, and so on. And then on the left side is during the last 5 years, have you had any cooperation with representatives of Latvia? Here is quite interesting because 53% had some cooperation, 10% close, 15% sometimes. 28, it was rare, occasionally. Sorry, my mistake. This 15, yes, sometimes is correct, but 28 is occasional. Yes, but occasionally, time to time. And just 42% has no cooperation at all during the last 5 years. So it means that you see this doesn't overlap. And also in focus group discussions, it appeared quite frequently that I wrote, I called, I asked, I met someone in conference or some meeting and initiated some cooperation. So for those who had this cooperation, as you see, just 14% experienced interest in their professional knowledge. Those who cooperated, it means that initiative basically came from their side. And quite frequent was also the answers that I wrote to Latvian official and he or she never answered me. So also here is some percentage of not answered initiative as well. And also what we discovered that those who started their career in Latvia has that cooperation much more successful because it is built on their previous professional networks. And those who studied abroad or started their career abroad, they really struggle with this cooperation because they don't have professional networks here in Latvia. So here is this differences regarding on professional career developments, how this cooperation develops. About stakeholders involved. I will not pay a lot of attention here, but the diversity is quite important. And of course, ministry or organization under ministry supervision are mainly mentioned. And here the basis are those who had cooperation with Latvia during the last 5 years. And you see that Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Embassy or Honorary Council in the country of residence, these are 3 main bodies for that cooperation. And from others, the higher education institutions drop out. But because professionals are asked to come as visiting lecturers from many higher education institutions in Latvia, all are reading lectures or even all lecture course, but this is on most rare occasions. Also, many of them are involved in Latvian diaspora organizations. And here is some patterns, differences in patterns between cooperation strategies for those who are working in intergovernmental organizations like European Council and those who are working in non-governmental organizations. They have much more active cooperation with other non-governmental organizations in Latvia. But still, there's a lot of potentialities to develop. We are short in time, and I will skip these ways, what kind of support is given. And here also a lot of diversities, but this predisposition to engagement, I think, is quite important here. And I'm coming to end very soon. That majority absolutely supports that such systemic cooperation should be developed, and most of participants are interested to participate, but majority of them, 53%, possibly depends on the circumstances and on the offer. And focus group discussion absolutely clearly showed that these people are very short in time, and they are interested in clear and targeted cooperation. If you have particular aim, why you are devoting your time for this, you are in. If this is just blah, 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 like this, like one said, champagne and cake format, not for them. And I will skip this value attached to cooperation and factors hindering cooperation so far, and coming just to conclusions, preliminary conclusions. back to classical frame of diaspora diplomacy. And yeah, some benefits of cooperation with diaspora professionals are the same as the classic component of diaspora diplomacy. No, not just benefits, also those practices, existing practices of cooperation. So they are related to strengthening of the influence and visibility of the state. These professionals working in international organizations are strengthening the influence and visibility of Latvia in countries and organizations where they are located. And these professionals working in international organizations are ready to provide tools for civil service in Latvia that would help that civil service to better represent Latvia's interests internationally and increase the influence of Latvia. So it is on the way. This is this relationship between diaspora professionals and international bodies, and diaspora professionals back to Latvia, giving back to Latvia. So this is very classical political transnationalism aspect, this knowledge transfer back to home country. But also I can see classical components of diaspora engagement, this transfer of professional, intellectual and social capital, and investment in education and civil society. And investment in civil society was especially stressed by those working in non-governmental international organizations. And of course, classical component of experience transfer, knowledge transfer, contacts transfer, and so on. Yeah, and here I will stop share screen.
Okay, thank you, Baiba. It was a very insightful presentation, and I think that there's a lot of things that we can think from your presentation, and I think that it's very there is a strong contribution to us, and to us I mean to us, our center here. First, because to have some contact with the Latvian context, I think it's very important. This kind of diplomacy that you are doing right now, talking about diplomacy, and in the previous conversation that you and I are having, we are talking about these different types of parallelism, between Latvia and Spain or Catalonia. This kind of position in the gray zone, of the power relations and the international relations. How we are not strictly in the global north, but also we are not in the global south, and how we have maybe east or west, how maybe we have to rethink this kind of geographical imagination, as you label. And I think this is very interesting how this geographical imagination is linked to some political positions and also some sociological imagination. All these three things are correlated. So it was a pleasure to listen to your presentation. I was thinking, and I have some questions, and then we have some questions from the public too. My first question is about the particularity of the Latvian context, and how, in your opinion, this explain or justify the novelty of your project. I mean, you are saying that there is a lack of research about the topic, and I was thinking when I was listening to you, if one of the reasons that your project exists and your project is approaching this lack, maybe just an hypothesis, it's linked to the particular context of Latvia or not. It's just it's an open question. I don't know, but maybe it's an hypothesis. And in this specific context, and you build for us this context, and one of the things of this context is the circulation of brains, with a moment with brain drain and then a moment of brain gain, and maybe the context of this circulation, because when we talk about brain, it's very abstract, but there is a specific context of skilled workers. Not all skilled workers are the same. So this is my first question, and I have another question that I think it's linked. So this is why. Okay.
May you ask one question at a time? Otherwise, I will forget the first one.
Sorry, Baiba.
Perfect. I will try to answer, if possible, in short. I asked myself why there is so few research on that topic, and I think that this is at first quite new phenomena in itself, and the other researchers probably are simply interested in some other topics. And here we got this opportunity to have this emerging field, that we don't have systemic relations with diaspora to promote Latvian foreign policy goals abroad. And ministry would like to create such, so we as researchers have privilege to participate in ongoing process, because we explored also these ad hoc activities which are traceable back to Cold War, but these are single activities or system working on its own and not overlapping with state initiatives. And now it is overlapping. But regarding this brain circulation, this is very complicated question. Probably the answer will follow later after your second one. But what we saw that from state is this necessity to have more, brain backs, because lack of qualified workforce is huge, and ministries suffer from not being able to recruit enough really smart people to develop policies and proceed with needs. Even one of participants or two from informal discussions and one from formal interviews said, wow, it would be you have to forbid to promote vacancies in international organizations. Most talented people will go away from state administration in such cases. But here is also the other part, that those working in international organizations would like to give their knowledge, but the problem is that some average state administration worker is not interested in such cooperation, but not so much he or she is not interested, but the workload of those who remains or are left here are so high that they simply don't have time and energy for that. And this cooperation culture is not developed.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Baiba. So I was thinking about this, because one of the assumptions of the concept of diaspora engagement, or specifically diaspora diplomacy, there is, how can I say, there is a tension between the classic concept of diplomacy, because the classical concept of diplomacy, it's the professional activity, to represent a state. In this case, it's not, sometimes it's professional, but the professional, it's not linked to the state, it's linked to other kind of organizations, I was thinking that if it's possible to think about an individual diplomacy, there is diplomacy that it's not systematic, there is diplomacy that it's not led by the state, or it's another kind of phenomenon, a political phenomenon, but maybe not diplomacy. I was thinking about that, and also maybe, and I think your results express this very well. Something in between, in between the individual and the state, different kinds of networks. So could we think about network diplomacy? But these networks are, there is one expression that I think it's good to think about diplomacy in the classical meaning, is think from the state. To have diplomacy, you have to represent the state, or the state interests. So I was thinking if there is this discussion that you bring to us between systematic and individual, and I was thinking that if the individual diplomacy is truly diplomacy, or it's another thing, or maybe as the project, it's an intention of the Minister of Foreign Relations, it's an intention to build diplomacy from this, sparse actions. I don't know. I was just sharing my thoughts with you.
Yeah, I can just say refer you and our participants or listeners to book Public Diplomacy Foundations for Global Engagement in the Digital Age. Carl is the author, and he is writing about the pyramid of public diplomacy developed by Canada. They are dividing the short-term activities and long-term activities, but also according the state involvement, that there is public diplomacy controlled by state, but also public diplomacy which is human to human. So this very concept of public diplomacy is very multi-layered. So from the state-controlled communication to absolutely private communication. And as diaspora diplomacy can be seen as one aspect of public diplomacy, because public diplomacy, for example, is also when here is student exchange or scientist exchange, or when celebrity diplomacy is one aspect also, like cultural diplomacy, like composers, performers, and so on. And this is more this human-to-human communication. So from a theoretical point of view, I understand that we can speak about this public diplomacy or diaspora diplomacy also at individual level, because this idea of multiple actors involved in contemporary, or who could be involved in contemporary diplomatic actions. The question is rather how you are doing that. And
totally.
if you have some specific task or where is your place in this network or pyramid of public diplomacy?
Yeah, and I was thinking, when we think about this interface between diaspora and public diplomacy, I was thinking that maybe there are some actors that are transnational, but they are not from the diaspora, and maybe they act as public in the public diplomacy. I mean, an example, an international professor that it's not born in the country that he or she works, but represent this country or the interest of this country or the interest of these places in another countries. No, I was just thinking about the transnationalism further than the national citizenship. And I don't know, maybe this is an hypothesis because I was thinking about myself, like I'm a Brazilian working in Spain, and today we are going to Morocco. And in Morocco, they see us as Spanish actors. I mean, like we are doing what you conceive as public diplomacy, but I'm not Spanish, you know. Just some insights that maybe it's another aspect that could be approached in the future, no? Just to detach, no? Because it's not because I'm a Brazilian that I'm doing diplomacy for Brazil, you know, just, I don't know, just some insight.
Yeah. Because one is this case you mentioned, the other is this diaspora of sympathies, like family members who are not citizens of one or other particular country and so on, but also this plurality of belongings and plurality of identities.
Yeah,
this is much more diverse at present moment. Here also are a lot of cases when person is living in, I don't remember, it was far east somewhere, but working in European institution. What he's representing, or she.
Yeah, totally.
And there's a lot of persons who are, how to say, formally working in a European Union institution, but living in Africa.
Totally.
Because this is the mission for a few years over there. Or we met also those who are employed by United Nations in New York, but living in Riga. And
yeah, and this was maybe my difficulty to understand individual diplomacy, because individuals are very complex, and what kind of interest they are representing, it's difficult to put, you know, in a label like this is an individual that is doing diplomacy linked to the Latvia, you know, like.
Yeah, I need to be more in this field to follow that discussion. But your question reminded other point I didn't mention here, and this is neutrality, the request of neutrality, because for most of international bodies, this comes as job requirement that you have to be neutral, and you can't, advocate for one particular country, because you have to have equal attitude toward all of them. And this makes all this issue of public diplomacy or diaspora diplomacy much more complicated. And also many of our research participants mentioned that there are very limited ways how they can be engaged, not to not to violate this rule of neutrality is requested for them.
Yeah, this is very interesting, because I was listening to you, and I was thinking maybe if we if you can think about, I don't know, a cosmopolitan diplomacy, like from the individual, because if the individual are cosmopolitan, maybe they are representing diversity of interests that are not strictly linked to one national state, but to some, maybe to some values, to some shared values. And this is a very different and non-classical, non-orthodox way to see diplomacy. It's like, it's very... So we have a question from Beatriz de la Torre, one of our PhD students. She was thinking about, and I think that this is very interesting because since you are bringing to us a work in progress project, we have a very recent data, it's like from July.
Yes.
And she was curious about the possible impacts of the war on Ukraine for the actors that you are studying, and also considering the position of Latvia. You also made a very quick comment about how the position of Latvia, it's very different from Ukraine, but they share some aspects in historical aspects. So just this curiosity, if you can see an impact of the war on Ukraine in the experience of the actors, the subjects you study.
Oh, I have to go through my fieldwork notes to answer this more precisely, but I think that there was very few occasions when it was mentioned in focus group discussions. And mostly one was particular, when in Africa, European missions in Africa. In Africa, they see Europe in quite differently than as we see it being here, of course. It's far from them. And it is quite difficult for them to understand this role of USSR and acting as like it was imperial powers of the past, and so there were some occasions when first the Latvians find easy language with many African representatives because they refer to these similarities between being under imperial power.
Mm-hmm.
Just it was Africa under Western power and East Europe or Baltic states under Russia's imperial power. But at present moment, I simply don't remember more precise stories because we have very particular questions. The discussions were very intense on those, so probably there was simply no room for that question.
Okay. Yeah,
but
totally.
I assume that many of persons has some stories to tell. Just there were no room for those stories in our fieldwork.
Yeah, totally understand. Yeah, because I mean, the war, it's a total social phenomenon. No? It's like it's in all the aspects of our lives, and probably it's more intense in the countries closer to the conflict and to Russia.
It impacts all our life.
Yeah. So, Baiba, I don't know if you have further comments or.
I would like to say thank you for this opportunity to present this study in progress here. And I hope that after a year, you will be able to read the article in English about that research. And I ask those who listened to our discussion, probably they could send some comments or questions for discussion. It would be very helpful also to facilitate the thinking about that. because in fact, before this seminar, I didn't thought about our topic from this political transnationalism lens, not at all, and only working or thinking about how to present this topic today, I discovered so many useful tools from these discussions on political transnationalism, which could be used also to discuss this diaspora diplomacy and vice versa. A lot of tools used to discuss diaspora diplomacy, in fact, never used in political transnationalism. However, phenomena is one and the same, but the difference how we are approaching it, it is quite, yeah, I was surprised how these conceptual tools are changes how I saw the phenomena.
Mm. This is amazing. It's the best feedback we can have when we propose a discussion. It's that like you have some thoughts from the topic we just like irresponsibly put in the table. So I'm very happy that you accepted. I'm very happy to know your more recent work and to met you, like I think 2 years ago now in the Congress of the ESA. For us, it's a pleasure, Baiba. We are very happy to have you here. For the people who register, we have like a mailing for the people who register to your seminar, and once you have your article, we can share with them, so we can keep going with the discussion that I think it's very, very, very relevant and insightful. So Baiba, thank you so much for your presence, your virtual presence here. Let's see if we can do in-person presence in the future.
Yeah, looking forward for some cooperation in future.